Hello, everyone. Welcome to the CPA Moms podcast. I am Nicole Kehl, your host and the brand ambassador for CPA Moms. Today, we are talking about redefining leadership and, in doing so, building a firm that works for you. I am joined today by Mayumi Young, a CPA and financial expert, and being named one of the top 50 women in 2003 can definitely be considered a leader in the accounting space. So thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So I recently had a conversation on our weekly mastermind with a group of women accountants. And we talked about leadership, and one of the topics that came up several times was how hard it is for women to think of themselves as leaders, even when they are doing exactly that every single day, whether it's leading in your firm, with your clients, in your accounting career, or in your homes with your family. And it just is one of these things that I don't know where it's coming from exactly, and would love to hear your thoughts. Why do you think so many women hesitate to call themselves leaders?
It's a great question. My opinion, and I'll claim it as an opinion because, there's no right or wrong answer to a question like this. But my assertion is that we as women, especially in a predominantly male-led industry, we're not predominantly male because we're over 62% female, but less than 10% of accounting firm owners, partners, leaders are men. Oh, excuse me, less than 10% are female. And so my assertion is that we have only really seen a more male, I'll use the term masculine, but there's different, like, we are all parts feminine and masculine. Um, and we need both in order to be effective in leadership. And that's true everywhere, in family, in business, everywhere. If you operate totally and completely from that feminine place, your children, could get harmed, might not be safe. There's a need to bring forth both aspects of our personality as a woman and as a man in successful and effective leadership. That being said, I don't know that men are well trained in tapping into their feminine aspects of leadership, and I know that women aren't well trained in tapping into the masculine aspect of their leadership. But what we see is oftentimes an example of maybe a negative masculine or an over there's negative feminine and negative masculine, right? Like when we aren't effective in expressing leadership through those two energies. And so when you have sort of that dark side of the masculine, you can see or witness leadership being very dominating, controlling, um, dictator-ish, like not open to hearing or listening to other people's opinions, sort of my way or the highway. And so those types of, I'll call them negative aspects of masculine leadership are, I think, most of the examples that we see, certainly in business. And it doesn't feel good to be on the receiving end of that. And so it's almost like we want to be not that, which is good. Let's not be the dark side or the negative side of either the masculine or the dark side or the negative side of the feminine either. And we should talk about what the positive and the negative aspects look like, so we're clear what to avoid. But in doing so, the traits in the ways in which we lead don't occur like leadership. because they're not sort of cultural norms of how you lead. We think about maybe military as, how, and you're a veteran. You can speak to this probably better than anyone, of the manner in which leadership is modeled in the military world. Hugely effective aspects to that leadership methodology, because lives are at stake, right? And so, it works, and there's probably aspects which don't work, right? And so, uh, that's what I believe, that we're not seeing enough examples of what it looks like to be a woman in leadership. First of all, 90% aren't even women anyway. So we're not seeing enough of us reflecting back what leadership looks like when utilizing both healthy feminine and masculine characteristics while leading. So that's my long-winded answer to your very short question.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense. And it's funny you started talking about the dark side. Clearly, I am a boy mom. I totally got like Star Wars going on in my head, Darth Vader. And yes, he was kind of a dictator, I would say. So totally get that.
We have
So
space
one
for all aspects of our personality.
of
Ask for forgiveness and grace. Our job is not to be perfect. Just do the best we can.
So one of the core beliefs here as CPA moms is that we get to redesign the industry, if you will, by women for women. And I think a piece of that means questioning the way that accounting practices have always been run in the past, which is somewhat what you alluded to, and making changes. What are some of those outdated leadership norms that we need to let go of? And then what might feminine life aligned leadership look like instead?
Another great question. I think to answer the question, I want to first be in alignment with what I mean when I say leadership, so that we're all talking apples to apples here. And I think there is a very big distinction between leadership and management. And I think we get them confused a lot. Especially if you are a solo practitioner with maybe just one part-time assistant, or you're kind of wearing a lot of hats in your practice. And so, it's almost like, at one point I was going to get different hats with like titles, that one had CEO and the other one had manager and the other one had professional, right? So that I could literally physically remind myself, okay, the CEO, I have to switch into my leader CEO hat and make decisions from that place. Okay, now I'm wearing my manager hat. And so, when we distinguish it, leaders are really about setting a direction, setting a vision, creating alignment among those that you are leading to that vision and that direction. A strong leader is going to point in a direction, said, we're going here, and the team follows, because there's so much trust in that person's ability, even if that leader is leading them into danger. I mean, how many war movies, etc., have we watched where the leader is like, follow me, and everyone's like, Braveheart or whatever, we're going into the battlefield together. But it's really about, why, what are the qualities of a good leader that someone would follow you onto the battlefield, into danger? That's really the question. So, like, who do we need to become that we engender that much loyalty and trust and alignment, and just, I don't know, like that. I mean, that's powerful leadership. A leader does not, and often will never really know 100%, if the direction or vision they've chosen is the correct one. So if you're expecting as a leader that you're going to know with some level of certainty that the direction you've chosen is the right one, then you're going to have a very difficult time feeling empowered in your leadership. You have to be comfortable with a certain level of uncertainty and a lot of heaping doses of faith and confidence in your ability to choose a direction, move in that direction, lead people in a direction, knowing that you might be going the wrong way, but you trust in your ability to pivot and course correct along the way. So these are all aspects of like characteristics. And the other piece of strong leadership is really the greatest imagery I can give you to describe my philosophy and belief systems of strong leadership is those, if you've ever seen those, they look like long canoe boats with rowers. So they're called crew. And there might be two people in the boat. Well, one, two, five, 10. And you know, you have alternating, you know, and one oar on one side of the boat, and the person behind you has got one oar on the other side of the boat. And you have an even number of people, and you have someone, can't remember the formal name of this person, who sits at the front of the boat facing the rowers, and their job is to go row, row, and they keep the pace, they keep the beat, keep the beat. And the job of the leader, because if anyone is out of sync, even just a little bit, the boat can capsize, the boat can go in the opposite direction, the boat cannot move forward. It has to be synchronized. Everyone is synchronized, moving at the same pace, in the same beat, in the same rhythm. And a strong leader has the capacity to generate that rhythm among their team. That, you know, where the weakest link on the weakest rower causes the entire boat to fail. So how do you elevate everyone so that everyone's rowing in the same direction, in the same cadence and rhythm? How do you create that trust of each other as well as of the leaders? How do you choose a vision and a direction and then confidently move in that direction, trusting that you'll correct as you go? That's leadership. That's not male or female. That's just leadership. And management is something entirely different. And so when we redefine or recreate, now that we have this opportunity to say, well, what do we want it to look like? What does positive feminine aspects of leadership look like? What does positive aspects of masculine leadership look like? And I'll give a couple examples, and I think we can all find ourselves in these examples. But the traits of feminine leadership, or the feminine characteristics, which again, I'll repeat, all men and women have both masculine and feminine. We may be underdeveloped in one or the other. And I'll tell you personally, I was actually more trained and developed in the masculine aspects of my personality in corporate America than I was developed in the feminine aspects. So just because you're female doesn't mean you have a higher developed feminine. I modeled the leaders that I saw when I started in corporate America, and I described those the women that I modeled who were partners, I describe them now later after the fact as really just men in skirts. So I developed a very masculine leadership style. And I was extremely underdeveloped in my feminine leadership and my feminine aspects of my personality. So I actually had to get trained and developed in the feminine. And I think the same is true for men, that, you know, we have overdeveloped and underdeveloped aspects. But when I talk about feminine leadership. I'm talking about traits. So you want to think about the feminine energy as the energy of um, the container, the space. The feminine aspect is like holding the space. If you think of how women create life, we have a physical womb where a baby is actually created. That's a space. And as a woman, we are the container, the vessel, the space that where things are created. Life is created in that space. And when we are in that feminine aspect, we are really in a space of like openness, receiving. It's a space where we have the capacity to have empathy, compassion. People feel trust and emotional safety when you have strong compassion, empathy for others. It's much more of a collaborative energy. It's more flexible, deeply intuitive, and very nurturing. Now, let me be very clear. The feminine energy of anything, and certainly of leadership, is one of the most powerful. I would argue that feminine energy is the most powerful energy on the planet. It is how we create life, literally. And if you think in terms of kings and queens, and you know anything about chess, the queen piece, chess piece, is the most powerful chess piece on the board. She can move in an unlimited number of spaces in any direction. And that really is truly like that is what we possess, is that queen energy where we can move in any number of spaces in any direction. We are the most powerful piece on the board of life. If we develop and enhance our feminine aspects and we stay in the positive. But if we are just in this place of openness and we don't bring forth any of our masculine characteristics inside of leadership, we will have a lack of structure or action that can create chaos, and a lack of movement and an inability to actually perform or produce results. And in business, we exist to play a game that has a scorecard that says this is how, if we won the game or lost the game. So we need to be in action. We need to mobilize, not just be in the space of open receptivity, nurturing, compassion, collaborate, look, right? We need to move the ball down the field. And that's where the masculine energy comes in. And we have to learn how to be in a dance with both the feminine and masculine energies. So the masculine, a healthy masculine, has decisiveness, is goal and results oriented, has structure. There's systems, there's predictability, there's action, the energy, the drive that puts one foot in front of the other to move in the direction of comes from the masculine. Confidence is critical for both feminine and masculine leadership. And, when we're in our healthy masculine and healthy feminine, we're dancing between both. Sometimes we need to be in a space of our intuition because the answers aren't clear. So you have to stop and listen and use a lot of intuitive guidance to determine, am I going right or left here on this path? But at the same time, once you get that sort of clarity or intuitive guidance, emotional guidance, then you actually have to move in a direction. That's the masculine again. So it's like having a right foot and a left foot. You can't just move the right foot. You're not going anywhere. You're just going to go in a circle. If you plant your left foot, let's call your left foot your, well, left side of our body is actually our masculine, feminine energy, and our right side is masculine. So let's use left foot is feminine, right foot is masculine. If you just move your right foot and you plant your left foot, you're just going to go in a circle. You'll move, but you're not going anywhere. You have to have both. Did you ask me about the dark side or no? I can't remember. Sorry.
No, no, we talked about the dark side and talked about Star Wars, and I don't think there was a question related to the dark side.
Well, I think I'll say this because I think it's really important because we reject things that we don't understand. And I think because we've seen so much, I'll call it negative masculine, that dictatorship, really overlooking people, kind of stepping over people, not regarding people's emotion, like where you feel unsafe to express emotion. When I work with women that have come out of corporate, I have to give them permission over and over and over to use their intuition and to be allowed to express emotion and not appear weak. The feminine energy is not weak in any aspect. Expressing emotion is not weak, but there is a negative feminine, and that is something we want to develop a muscle around our the strong aspects of the feminine, because it's there where people experience the feeling of being weak. It's not in the positive aspects of the feminine. Negative masculine is deeply rigid. There's structure and there's systems, and then there's rigidity. That's not the same. Resistance, that's not the same. And I'm sure you've been dismissed. You've worked with people that you feel have had strong egos. They're self-concerned. They're not concerned for you, very controlled, and there's no space of vulnerability. And that's the negative aspect of masculine. And a woman or a man can possess that. But what we don't think about, and what I think is important to point out, is the negative or the shadow side of the feminine. And this is where the weakness label or the repulsion in the game of business comes from. And it's where we are martyrs in a way, where we are so like enmeshed in other people's feelings. It's fine to have empathy, but over identifying with feelings and avoiding conflict because of all the emotional whatever, that's the shadow side. Your inability to make decisions, people pleasing, this is the shadow side. A lack of structure, not wanting to, no, I don't want to seem too dominating or too controlling, creates chaos. If you're not willing to stand by and look at data and stand behind your decisions, and you're always putting everyone ahead of you, this is the negative or shadow side of the feminine. And in business, it will create chaos, a lack of trust, a lack of respect. And therefore, how are you going to actually be effective as a leader? Because leaders need to create followers who trust them, believe that they know which direction they're going, and will follow them onto the battlefield. And so developing ourselves and dealing with and evolving the negative or shadow sides of both our masculine and our feminine, developing both the positive aspects of our feminine and the positive aspects of our masculine will lead to very effective leadership everywhere. Think about how effective you'll be with your children. I literally just read an article on Facebook last night about a woman, a friend, who's a mom of two girls, and she talked about being a people pleaser and an inability to discipline her children, and how she is developing confidence in her ability to set boundaries and rules and structure. And this is what we're describing. We want you to develop as a way of being so that you can have this way of being everywhere in life. It will serve you everywhere. It will serve you as a parent. It will serve you as a wife. It will serve you in business. It'll serve you in partnerships. It'll serve you in your friendships, your families, everywhere you go. Developing this will serve you and be a positive aspect in your life. I'll hand it back to you.
No, I think that was really great. I think that's a great distinction to make between leadership and management. I love the way you described the different energies. And, as you were talking, one, I agree. I think feminine energy is the greatest, most powerful energy out there. And as you were talking, what really resonated with me was I feel like as women accountants, one, we are women, so we have that feminine side, the empathy, the emotional intelligence, the intuition. I think that a lot of us have tried to thwart it, to push it down because it is not taught as a strength. It is taught as a deterrent for you, especially in the public accounting and corporate space. But I think also because some of the traits you described for the masculine energy were analytical, um, being able to push things forward. And I think as accountants, we have a lot of those skills just naturally to us. So it's like, oh, well, wait a minute. Like, accounting women are clearly the ones that should be leading the world, right? That's what I got from that.
Great takeaways, Nicole.
But I think that one thing that can get in our way, or there are multiple things that can get in our way, and you mentioned some of them, I think fear, guilt, the people pleasing. And one thing that I know I have personally really struggled with is taking on responsibility for other people's feelings. And it's a very common phrase. I think we all know this, have heard it, but the first step to solving any problem is to identify the problem. So obviously take some time to do that. But then once you kind of see what is getting in your way, whether it's fear, guilt, what are steps that can be taken to help you move past that and develop yourself more into a stronger leader?
Um, well, I think you said the first step, very subtly. So I'm going to underscore what you said as step number one. Without awareness, you don't, there's no correction that you can make. So everything starts always first with an awareness, an acknowledgement. And I think I would say part two of that first step is to have awareness and acknowledgement that is kind. Be kind with ourselves. We need to be kinder to ourselves in our own self reflection. And it's so easy for us to look at this laundry list of positive and negative aspects of masculine and feminine and look at the negative and go, oh, I'm doing this, I'm people pleasing, I'm not operating confidently, I'm putting others before me. I am guilty of every single thing that I've described. I've done the negative masculine and the negative feminine. And if I spent my time while evaluating the areas where I need the most transformation and improvement, and I did so with the harsh tone that my thoughts have about that, then I'm actually going to make the process of evolving much more difficult because we actually, I'm sure you've heard the term, whatever we resist persists. And we resist anything that we perceive to be that something's wrong with us. And I'm going to encourage everyone to avoid relating to this sort of self assessment of what could be traits that we have picked up, habits, behaviors that we have picked up and created habitual ways of being, that there's something wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with putting someone before yourself. There's nothing fundamentally, what's wrong with that? Well, nothing. The only thing that would have you want to operate perhaps differently from that is that putting others before yourself consistently is counter to your intention of strong leadership. Because, if your commitment is to be an effective, strong, beloved leader, then, and we're saying that these aspects create, a lack of admiration or respect, a lack of trust, a lack of confidence, then naturally you would look at it as counterproductive to your commitment. That's it. Not wrong, not bad, not something to fix, but an opportunity should you choose to be more effective in the area that you're committed to, which is leadership. Well, now you have an opportunity to look at those areas where you're less effective or that are not as effective in the domain of leadership, and you have an opportunity to transform those. Super critical. The way that you view these aspects of yourself is going to give you the highest percentage of success in developing other characteristics, qualities, and behaviors that you do want. Because if you keep looking at this like there's something wrong with you that needs to be fixed, you will not progress in the areas that you are committed to, because you'll be trying to prove to yourself that there isn't anything wrong with you and that you're not bad and wrong. And all the energy is going to continue to perpetuate that, because that's where you're giving all your attention. Versus just acknowledge, okay, sure, I people please. I people please all the time. I put people in front of me all the time. I had this quote that I've used for 25 years. I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years, over 3 businesses, over because I have all these offshoot businesses, 3 core businesses over 25 years. In all 25 years, I've said, I am not money motivated. I want to make a difference. Well, how are you going to be in business and not be somewhat money motivated? What foolishness is that? So I could look at that and be like, you're such a dummy. And I could berate myself, I can belittle myself, I can invalidate myself, I can make myself feel really small. I could do that. I got plenty of thoughts that make me go, what made you come up with that? How is that a good idea? And I promise you, I've made so many mistakes. I make them still today, where I have been too like, we're all family, we're all friends. That's what feminine leadership it is. It is not. We are not a family, we're a business. I'm a leader, you're an employee, or we're partners, or you're a client. You can care about people without being like, anything goes, like, right? So even now I'm learning these lessons. And oh, they don't feel good. They don't feel good. And if we continue to allow them to persist without addressing them, they only get bigger. I call it a cosmic 2x4. Whack. Doesn't feel good. But how's a cosmic bus? Way more painful. How about a cosmic house dropped on you? Way more painful. I don't need to wait for all the future iterations. How about I address it now? And so that's step one, with a whole lot of subparts. Be kind to yourself in your evaluation, your assessment. Give up any conversation about you're doing something wrong or there's something wrong with you. And put your attention and your focus on what you want. Don't put your focus and attention on what you don't want. Race car drivers are told to look in the direction they want to go. If you look at the wall, you'll hit the wall. So that's step one, awareness with consciousness and intention and focus and direction. Step two, we are a bundle of neural pathways. Our brains are a bunch of neural pathways that are wired into certain habits, right? And so our brain is so intelligent. It's the first AI. It's like it takes a little piece and then it learns and it goes, okay, well, you must mean this. It's how you can drive from point A to point B and not remember anything about the drive because your brain filled in all the parts that you weren't actually conscious or present to. So if we're a bunch of neurons firing, then what is the job of these neural pathways? Well, it's to create kind of automatic behaviors. So we don't have to think. If we had to think about, okay, breathe in, blink, breathe out, fix that cell, shed that skin, grow that hair. I mean, we had to think about every function that our body needed to take in any given moment. What kind of life is that? So our brain is wired to allow us to allow a lot of things to happen on autopilot. So we may have created initially a program that says it's safer if you're pleasing. Maybe there's an incident in our childhood, maybe you saw your parents fighting or something, and to feel safe in the world, you just wanted to please your parents. And that's how we survive trauma as a child. And so we create these ways of being that in the moment are conscious because we're trying to protect ourselves. And that's the job of our brain, is to survive and to feel safe in the world. It's not to thrive. That's not the brain's job. You can use it and program it to help to actually have you thrive. But by default, it is not designed for that. It's designed by default to automatically make sure you survive. So if you have any early lives and you have a threat, and I don't care if it's as simple as you got rejected by your first boyfriend or girlfriend, or you were abused as a child. I mean, any degree of personal threat creates these automatic brain patterns early in life. And then we live our adult life with these automatic patterns already in motion and playing out their process. And so the power and the beauty of our brain and our consciousness, our our frontal cortex, I get lobe. Okay. Our frontal cortex this is our creative and our thinking brain. Our animal brain is back here, the base of our skull. Our frontal cortex is our creative brain, our resourceful brain. It's the brain that creates magic and miracles in the world. And you can turn that on when you're not in fear. If you're in fear, it shuts off your frontal cortex and your animal brain picks up because it's trying to keep you in survival. So those of you who have been operating in your sympathetic nervous system and you're just going and going and going, you burned out your adrenals and you're burnt out and you're overworked and you're exhausted and you can't think, you have lost the ability to generate that creative thinking mind in the frontal cortex. You need rest, sleep, self-care, self-love. You need to rebuild your adrenals. You probably need supplements. You need probably exercise and vitamin D from the sunshine and cuddles with your kids and snuggles with your puppies. I mean, whatever you have to do to regenerate a place of feeling grounded and safe in your own body and stimulate that parasympathetic nervous system. And you can Google and research and chat GPT, all the ways to do that and get all the support and all the love and all the care to do that. But you have to be in a place of out of survival to create new brain patterns because we're habituated beings. We're automatic vessels. We programmed ourselves to be that way. But here's the really, 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 really good news. You can actually reprogram your brain. I think there's a lot of science that says, you can take 21 days to retrain create a new habit. And in those 21 days, your brain is going to say, I don't feel like it. I don't want to. I'm tired. I don't have time. I, I, I can't. Um, I don't feel good. Your brain is trying to, its last gasp of surviving its programming. It doesn't, you're killing off that programming and you're replacing it with your own upgraded software, the one that you chose to design, not the one you were left with because you had an incident when you were 5. We all have the power to reprogram our brain. We all have the power. Now, I mean, I go through so many training systems and methodologies. There's so many amazing tools and resources and professionals that can help you, whether it's one-on-one or group or trainings or books or you name it. There's so many ways to retrain your brain. Just pick one that you believe in, one that you trust, one that resonates with you, one that you're comfortable with, one that you can afford. Just pick one and begin retraining your brain. And I encourage you not to do this on your own. Get at least a community of like-hearted and like-minded people, women in this case. I encourage you to surround yourself with people who are out to cause the same elevated way of operating in life, way of leading in business, because that will give you a structure of accountability. When left to your own devices, your brain is going to give you you can't use the same thinking that got you into this habituated, automated way of being, of people pleasing or guilt or all these ways that we operate automatically. The same thinking that created those brain patterns is not going to get you out of this way of thinking. You need outside influence to create some inertia. You know, when you have a body at rest stays at rest. That's a physics principle. A body in motion stays in motion. But you're a body at rest with a bunch of automatic ways of being that are all in default. Now you're like, oh, let me turn on my ability to be my own creator of my own experience, creator of who I'm going to be because I said so. And that requires some level of inertia, something pushing up against this ball that's been just not moving. And that outside influence could be community, peers, like-hearted, like-minded. Could be coaches, could be mentors, could be trainers, could be a book, could be anything. But to depend on yourself solely to retrain your patterns, it's like trying to look at the back of your own eyeballs. Every time you turn to look, you can't see it. But if I turn, can't you see what's behind my eyeballs? I can't see it, but you can see it. So other people can see what we can't see. It's just going to accelerate. I mean, how many of you want to take the next 20 years to discover these aspects of yourself and reprogram yourself to live a higher quality and standard of life? Not I. If you can do in 20 years, in 20 weeks or 21 days, wouldn't you prefer that? So it's just about creating more velocity around that which you are committed to, that which you intend for yourself and for your life. And I think the last piece is take ownership, responsibility that um most two things. One, raise your standards. Raise your standards. If you think that you have the best that you're going to have, and this is as good as it's going to get, then nothing we've said today is going to make a difference. But if you raise your standards and you lower what you're willing to tolerate, you get in life what you're willing to tolerate. So if you continue to tolerate a way of being that doesn't serve you, people that don't serve you, etc., you're just going to continue to attract that to your life, and you're just going to have more and more of those experiences. And then you'll prove that you're right. It doesn't get any better. Or you could take a chance and raise your standards and lower what you tolerate from others and from yourself. And with that, you then become and choose to take responsibility for your life. If it's not working, It's because you haven't created it in such a way that it works. If it is working, you can take responsibility that you caused that positive outcome. Either way, when we take responsibility and ownership of every result that we have in life, and we are not over there looking at, well, you did this to me, and I blame my parents because they messed me up, and that's why I have these brain patterns. You're an adult now. Maybe it was true that you created these automatic self-protection brain patterns when you were 5 because of some things that your parents, weren't great at. They did the best they could too. But to blame your parents for how you turned out is not going to get you where you want to be. There's nothing wrong with it. You can go ahead, blame all blame everyone, blame the government, blame society, blame COVID, blame the monetary system, blame whoever's in president at the time, blame, I don't know, pick something, anyone but you, and then see how life works out for you. But the power of this must rest in your willingness to be responsible and own every single result that happens, good and, I shouldn't say good and bad because that's a moral judgment, but aligned with what you want and things that are not aligned, favorable and unfavorable. So we have the power. Right now, everyone has the capacity and the power to change the direction of their life. The question is, will you use it? So those are my 42 cents about how would you actually do this?
Beautifully said. So I recently did the Landmark Forum. I know you are familiar with the work and have been involved in that for a long time. And one of the distinctions that has really helped me is just exactly what you were talking about, is how we can have our past running our future, how we can just be caught in these patterns and not even know we're doing it, not even being aware of it. It's just there happening and needing a way to interrupt that and just looking at it different and separating out, the things that have happened in my past that are coloring a situation and not just automatically doing it, but looking at things with intention and purpose. And I think that is really one way to transform your leadership and really step into being a stronger leader, is having that ability to distinguish in your own personal life. So I appreciate our conversation today, Mayumi. It's been very enlightening. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
To all of the listeners, I hope that this conversation sparked something in you, whether it's seeing yourself as a leader in a new way or simply a reminder that you can look at things different and step into a different, more stronger leadership way in your world. That's it for today's episode. At CPA Moms, we believe that women can have a successful career and raise a happy family. If you are ready to embrace work-life harmony and connect with like-hearted women, join our CPA Moms Facebook community. You can just click the link in the show notes or search CPA Moms on Facebook. We can't wait to welcome you. Until next time, thank you for being here. We see you, we believe in you, and we can't wait to grow with you.